Osaka, joined by my dear friend Edward DeMarco, hashtag Edward in Africa, who's in Nairobi, Kenya. And this is our mea culpa 5-minute test podcast because yesterday we had an absolute Ron DeSantis moment, and I'm traumatized. I need to get over it. I need to face the shadows and not get this LinkedIn Live phobia. And I'm hoping that you can hold my hand, Edward.
I need to get the paparazzi off my back on this one, CJ. I mean, this is the level of shame and just public humiliation has reached intolerable levels. But we're going to try to make a comeback.
So maybe explain.
Come back strong.
Explain what happened, and you can go into detail about my meltdown if you want, because you were very, very cool.
Basically, our streaming service thought we were software engineers. They forgot to put "this is the easy way to do this" button on the screen. So we were forced to start writing code, I think, to try to fix the glitch. Unfortunately, overnight, you found a much easier, user-friendly streaming service, which we're really happy connects right into LinkedIn, and has put us back in the Africa game. That's why we're here.
You know, it gave me a new benchmark. You know, when the chat helper, when the chat support tells you to send them the console log, I'm in the wrong room.
You're like, I'm sorry, Mr. Musk is gone. Mr. Musk has left the building.
Anyway, so this is our test, and this podcast. This was a LinkedIn Live event, and Edward and I are dear friends from Zambia. Met on a plane, and we both are Africa Files. We both are authors. Edward's an award-winning author, but I'm taller. And this LinkedIn Live event was about Africa Megatrends 2023. And Edward, who is a geo-strategist with credentials from Bloomberg to USAID, he really loves getting the weeds of stuff that are kind of moving the needle in geopolitics and social events, as well as, well, you could tell it better than me, I suppose. So tell us.
Well, yeah, and we looked at the calendar and said, oh, wait a minute, May the 25th, it's Africa Day, and it's the 60th anniversary of the formation of the Organization of African Unity, which has now basically become the African Union. And we're like, oh, what a cool day to do a live event.
What a cool day to have a meltdown.
Instead. But you know what, like we've said before, and we have a podcast coming, we'll mention that. The Rush for Africa is coming soon. But, you know, as we've said in that podcast, like you just got to roll with it. And these things happen. Now, this was not an Africa problem. This wasn't an internet crash. This wasn't a power cut, although there was a power cut 45 minutes in, which would have taken down if our streaming service hadn't taken us down, that would have taken us down. But in this case, it was literally an American software odyssey that we were marched off into. And so CJ, we were talking before we went on, you know, why we're even interested in telling the world more about what we think we know about Africa. Because we've both been around here kicking the dirt for the better part of 12 years each, I think. So why are you here? Not like in New Jersey, playing golf at whatever the former POTUS's the Mar-a-Lago of the North.
That was on my bucket list. I'm here because I'm an intrepid adventure seeker and entrepreneur, and I love building businesses and investing in businesses that have a wide promise for scale. But more importantly, I mean, just fell in love with the continent. You know, I've spent a lot of time. I'm from New York City. Spent a lot of time traveling around the world. You know, grew up in Thailand and Saudi Arabia and Europe, but spent most of my adult life in the States, and just got to a point right around the global financial crisis, consequently, where I decided that it might be the right time to take my wares offshore, and looked high and low for an appropriate region. I mean, you can't be everywhere, but just really fell in love with the continent and saw a massive opportunity. And so we've been investing ever since. We started a hotel brand. We invest in green minerals. We are investing in education and all kinds of stuff. But I think that is just part of the payoff of being here, because everything that I do as I build businesses is it's not like your normal commute to Atlanta from the suburbs. A normal commute for us would be Kolwezi to Lusaka to Malawi and then back to home base in Cape Town. And no, it's been remarkable. And I know that once you're bit by the bug, you live with the sting, and you look like you've been bit a couple times.
Yeah, I've been maybe I've got bites all over me probably, but it is a fascinating place. And as a journalist, and I still consider myself a journalist, so that I haven't been sitting in an editor's chair for quite some time, but I did that in Washington for many years. And this is probably the greatest story on the planet. And and there's only like a handful of news organizations that significantly cover Africa, but even those don't quite come at it the way we're coming at it, because you've got the perspective of the investor, an investor, I would say, at a strategic level. And I have a perspective of a journalist who became an international development guy quite almost by accident. I've designed American foreign aid programs. I've managed them. I've written country strategies for the United States and things like that. And it's just, there's so much going on here. It's crazy. And like, this much of it gets out, and it's still a place that's largely, as we were talking earlier, the narrative is largely around wars, coups, and poverty and hunger. And yes, all those things still exist at this very moment somewhere in Africa across this vast continent. But that's not really the dominant narrative anymore. And I think that's where the world's still trying to catch up to the fact that Africa is going through a profound transformation, which we're privileged to witness every day. And it's simply, the story's got to be told the way we're seeing it. And smart money, smart strategic thinkers and creative people particularly, they're already you figure this out, right, CJ? They're already like on the trail, and they're seeing that there's enormous creative output coming out of Africa. There's going to be so much going on here, not to take stuff out of Africa so it can be put onto a Chinese factory floor or sent to Elon Musk's factory in Texas or Arizona, wherever he's got that thing. But it's also about the building of Africa, right? It's about everything that's happening here. And if you look at numbers, it's incredible what's happening in some countries. Even though we had all the problems of COVID, and we have continue to have terrible situations like what's happening in Sudan right now, there's still lots of other stories that are incredibly hopeful and dynamic.
There are indeed, and one of the narratives that's happening a lot. I mean, there's huge demographic shifts happening on a global scale, right? One is the demographic collapse of China, similarly with Russia, and also the sort of the muted demographics of Europe. But Africa, and this is why so much influence and attention is being shifted in the axis of Africa. Africa's, it's got the fastest growing demographic in the world. The average age is 18 and a half years old.
That's crazy. The average age is 18 and a half. That's just
18 and a half years old.
That's crazy.
Countries. By 2050, there'll be over 2 billion people on the continent. And what that means is that 1 in 4 people on the planet will live in Africa. And what this represents in terms of a consumer demographic, in terms of culture, in terms of growth, the service industries and property and democracy, and the impacts are profound. And so in our LinkedIn Live podcast or LinkedIn Live event, which we'll be doing shortly, we're going to really do a deep dive into the sort of the mega trends that are moving the needle.
So this is the reboot, right? This is the real thing. When we do it again next week, We'll make
next week.
sure the light switch is on and we've
We will. We
plugged in the
will.
laptop.
Yeah.
And okay, I've got a trivia question for you.
Sure.
Since you said we're going to get to 2 billion, which is kind of a mind blowing figure, what was the population roughly? I'll give you within a few million or 10 million. What was the population roughly of the entire continent of Africa 60 years ago when
Oh
this
my God.
OAU was being formed?
I would
What
just,
would be your guess?
it would be a random guess, but if the population is doubling every 25 years, then I'm just going to guess 200 million.
That's a good guess. That's a darn good guess. It was around 250 million.
Oh, wow.
In
Okay.
in 1960 to 1965 in that kind of range. So that was when, of course, Africa was when all these new nations were forming as
Yeah.
Britain and France, predominantly Britain and France, gave up their colonies and you unleashed all these new countries on the world. So yeah, that was a good. I mean, I like the way you kind of deconstructed the math there, the doubling. I don't know when it hit 500 or a billion for that matter, but the numbers are mega numbers. We're going to talk about in the mega trends. We are going to talk about where those people are living, and it's pretty fascinating where because it's not uniformly distributed.
Mm.
Africa is a huge place. Also, you got a massive desert and not many people living there, but the just in the urban areas, and a lot of people still picture Africa as like people gather around in a village, under thatched roof huts, and of course those still exist, and they're very cool to visit, by the way, and hang out with people. But Africa is urbanizing. Is it faster than anywhere else in the world? I don't know. It probably is, right?
It is, and I believe in a short 5 or 10 years, 60% of the continent will be urbanized, and that represents huge opportunities, which we're not going to go into right now because
Yeah, we'll get into all that. I was just kind of hinting,
yeah,
because
that's
you're sitting in Cape Town. I'm sitting in Nairobi today, and these are two of the bigger cities in Africa. You get the ocean view. I got a mountain. I got a cool mountain, the Maasai. It's kind of revered. That's out my window, but I don't have an ocean. I have to
I'm
go
not feeling
a
sorry
few
for you.
hours to get to an ocean.
I'm not feeling sorry for you. Nairobi's beautiful. We have giraffe coming.
It's
in.
pretty. It's a pretty afternoon in Nairobi. It's pretty weather. Yeah.
Well, look, I hope that we have gone live. I hope that we've overcome our fears.
I feel better. I feel like I feel lighter. I feel like I'm ready for the weekend.
Oh my God.
And we're going to reschedule, and we'll tell everybody when that is, right? Sometime early in the week. We'll send that out.
It's going to be Tuesday, 4:00 Central African time. It's already on my feed. I'll send you the invite for your feed, and it's going to be also on YouTube. So look forward to seeing you there. And Edward in Africa, you have a great Friday night.
CJ, great to see you. And in this rush for Africa, we'll be rushing back to our microphones next week.
Looking forward.
All right.
All right, man.
Take it easy. See you, buddy.
So long.